Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is John Van Lunen, and you are listening to Treasures of the Outer Banks, the podcast that celebrates the people and places that make this beach special. This is episode 44, and I sat down with Greg Smrdel. If you're out and about on the Outer Banks, you've probably experienced either Greg or one of his companies. He is the owner of Radio Free Outer Banks, a streaming radio station. He's authored 11 books, which you can purchase at local bookstores on the Outer Banks. He operates the Laughing Seagull Comedy Club, which offers pop-up comedy shows at various venues around town. He also organizes trivia night at various night spots in the area. And finally, during the summer, he owns and operates Manteo Walking Tours through Downtown Historic Manteo. Those are just the headlines. Stick around so you can hear the whole story. Let's get started. So 2002 Best Radio Station on the Beach, 2022 Best On-Air Radio Personality, 2022 and 2019 Best Local Author on the Beach, and 2022, and my favorite, Outer Banks' Most Colorful Character. How did I not get a vote for that? I'm kind of disappointed. What did your resume look like that you got that mention right there?
I have no idea. Is that like my intro, or is that my eulogy that they'll one day use?
And that's a wrap.
Yeah.
So, Greg, thanks for coming out on the show today.
Yeah.
How and when did you find yourself on the Outer Banks?
Well, I initially moved back. I moved down here back in 1984.
Wow.
I was working for a radio station in the islands of Lake Erie, and got snowed in for 3 days once. And there was two other people at the radio station at the time, and we were literally fighting the mice for whatever crumbs we could find. Actually had to break into the vending machine to eat for those 3 days that we were snowed in. And so I said, that's enough. Sent my audition tape to WOBR in Wanchese, Beach 95, and they hired me, and I said adios to
beautiful Lake Erie.
To beautiful Lake Erie.
Now, Bonnie and I, we spend time in Buffalo, so we are very familiar with Lake Erie.
Yeah, so yes, because I'm a Cleveland kid, that's where I was born and raised. One of the 8 places in the world that has this phenomena called lake effect snow.
Yeah.
So, yes.
What about the lake effect fire in Cleveland? Is that a thing still?
The lake effect fire. Oh, the
fire. When the lake sets on fire.
Yeah, the river caught on fire. I think it's actually, but here's the thing. So it caught on fire, I think it was in 1969. Okay. And that's what Johnny Carson and everybody was making jokes about Cleveland. But that was actually the 14th time it caught on fire.
Really?
Yeah. So
it took 14 times to get everybody's attention.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, brutal. So, and I'm sorry, was that 1984 you came down here?
84, yeah. And then I was down here for a number of years. And I was on the air one day at Beach 95. And a guy that was on he was down here for his wedding. Had a radio station in Columbus, heard me on the air, offered me a job. I had a daughter already, and I had a son that was on its way, and he offered me like 3 times the amount of money, and it was like, I don't want to leave, but I gotta leave. Right. So I ended up leaving for a while, and then came back again in 2020.
Okay, really? You've only been back for 4 years?
4 years on this stint.
You've left quite an impression in 4 years because you've just hit the
good
ground
or bad,
running.
it's like whatever, yeah.
But I mean, I see your name everywhere I go. You're doing what seems like 1,000 things. You must have a twin brother that runs around and does half the work for you.
That would be nice. I have a brother that lives down here. He's in Kitty Hawk, but he's no help.
And so let's see. All over your bio, it has entertainer type positions and stuff. Is that just in your DNA? How'd that all happen?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, John. I really don't. I remember growing up, my dad had this record. It was The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart. And I just wore the grooves out of that record. Yeah. And it never occurred to me that, comedy or anything like that was a thing you could actually do. Yeah. And I also remember when, being a Cleveland kid, the Cleveland Press would come out and you would have the TV guide on Friday. And I would go through the week and I would circle whatever comedians were on The Tonight Show. And I would make sure I was able to stay up and watch it. And but it never occurred to me that was something you can do. Well, I've got an uncle who was in radio in Cleveland. And I grew up on the east side, went to high school on the west side. It was an all-boys Catholic high school. So I had to pass through downtown every day. And my uncle's radio station was in downtown, so after school I would stop at the radio station, sit in with the guy that was doing the afternoon drive program, and it just kind of got in my blood. So when I went to Ohio State, I went for radio TV. And again, not knowing that comedy was a thing, but I was incorporating some comedy into my morning show.
Now, back up for a second. When you were a kid, was he letting you do anything, or were you just sitting in the corner watching?
No, I was in the corner watching. The guy that was on the air at the time, his name was Tim the Birdman. Tim Bird the Birdman was his name, the afternoon guy on WGCL, which is now WNCX in Cleveland. A number of years later, I happened to turn on VH1, and Tim Bird was one of the actual initial VJs on VH1.
Wow.
So he would just like say stuff to me like, all right, when I say this, I want you to clap, or you want you to do this. And so I wasn't really doing anything other than just sitting in the studio and just watching for the most part. But it was enough to get me hooked. And
very cool.
And,
very cool.
So
you went to Ohio State, did you say?
Ohio State.
Yep.
OH. You're supposed to say IO.
Oh, okay.
We'll teach you.
Okay. I'm new around here. And so you get a degree in that, and then you just come out guns blazing.
Got a job at that radio station in the islands of Lake Erie, and
No, explain to me, what is that really?
The islands of Lake Erie?
Yeah.
Well, there's several islands. It's west of Cleveland, east of Toledo.
Okay.
So there's I lived in Catawba Island. The radio station was in Port Clinton, but there's Middle Bass Island.
All pretty rural.
Was it Kelly's rural? Island? That's not really rural. It's like a big party town. So it'd be like going from here to Ocracoke.
Right.
If you lived on the north coast of Ohio, going to one of those islands would be like going to Ocracoke.
Okay. I think I get you now.
Yeah.
All right. So you come back to the Outer Banks and you're doing all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. You jump right back into the radio and you have your streaming radio station. Right. Tell us a little bit about the streaming radio station you have.
Well, here's the thing. I never planned on doing that. I didn't. I actually talked to the two radio station groups down here. I wanted to come back to the Outer Banks. I wanted to get back into radio, which is what I was doing the first time I was here. And either they didn't like me or they didn't have room for me, but I didn't get hired by either of the two groups. So I said, well, I'll show them. I'll put on my own radio show.
Okay.
Or put on my own radio station. And that's what I did. I teamed up with a couple of people. Right. We called it Radio Free Outer Banks, and we'll be 4 years old on March the 16th.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And is that constantly, is there a show constantly running 24/7?
Yeah, there is. I do mornings from 7 until 11, and then I come back and do afternoons from 4 till 6. We also have, John Harper does a show. John invented radio on the Outer Banks. That's what I always tell people. My uncle, who had the initial radio thing back in Cleveland, he lives in Los Angeles. He moved out there to program 4 different radio stations in LA. He's got some shows on my radio station.
Is that right?
The Uncle Ricky Retro Show.
Okay.
He's got the Cocktail Mix on Fridays, and
he just records that out in California.
He does. He records it in California and then just drops it to the radio station.
Very cool.
And we've got Percy Abel, who's a singer-songwriter out of Lynchburg, has written quite a few songs about the Outer Banks. He's got a show.
Nice.
Another guy, Sonny Vance. We've got Kirk Bogus's classic album Deep Dive. So yeah, we've got all kinds of different things on the radio
and each
station.
guest kind of shows up with their own genre, so to speak.
Pretty much, yeah.
You don't tell them what to play.
I do not. No, it's their show. It's their show.
Yeah.
And sometimes I cringe. Sometimes I'm like, why didn't I think of that? You know.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we are coastal Americana, which is just a fancy way of saying trop rock, right? Jimmy Buffett,
sure.
Bob Marley, that kind of stuff. But when we have the specialty shows, like we'll go back to John Harper, because I learned everything about radio from John Harper.
Wow.
He was my boss 40 years ago at Beach 95. And to this day, we're still friends. As a matter of fact, as soon as we finish doing this, I'm meeting John for coffee, which we do 3 or 4 times a week.
Cool.
He's got his flashback show. And this week, for an example, and I know this won't air before it, but 1978 is the year that he'll feature on his show, John Harper's Flashback at 11. And he just features the music from that particular year. Tell us what happened in the world, what happened in sports, what happened here locally on the Outer Banks, and plays that music as well. So, so we have different little specialty programming within that coastal Americana framework, I guess.
Nice. Where can people find your what is it called?
Radio Free Outer Banks.
Radio Free Outer Banks.
Yeah, online you can find it at radiofreeouterbanks.com. You can listen to it on your computer, that kind of thing. You can go to your Alexa and say, Alexa, play Radio Free Outer Banks. There it is right there. Is it going to play
She's going to talk?
Radio Free Americana from TuneIn.
No, you didn't hear me right. It's Radio Free Outer Banks on Alexa.
When you
Alexa,
the Kroger app,
stop.
We also have free phone apps. Just go to your marketplace for your apps on your phone, and just it's Radio Free OBX there.
Okay, nice.
So
you can listen to Outer Banks music wherever you go. Just listen to it on your smartphone.
Take it with you. Yep.
So let's see. Moving on. Authorship. You've written 11 books, and when I saw that yesterday, I kind of knew you had a couple of books out there, like the Andy Griffith book, but I had no idea it was 11 books. That's pretty impressive. Are you just constantly jamming stuff out?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So the first book here, Hurricane Izzy, an OBX story, that took me 20 years to write.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how to write a book. I just plain didn't know it. And I was reading all of these books on how to write books. And all it did was just confuse me.
Right.
Because you're trying to write a book with your right brain, the creative side, right? But I'm trying to do it. All these books are telling you to left brain, analytical. You got to have the story arc. You got to antagonist, protagonist, that kind of thing. And it just confused me. So one day I just said, the heck with all of what these books tell me.
Right.
I'm just going to sit down and write a book. And the result of that was Hurricane Izzy. And once I did that, it kind of opened the floodgates. Okay, now I know what I'm doing, maybe, but at least I know how I'm doing it for me. And so my next book then was Home Sweet Outer Banks Home, with a question mark at the end, which is as close to an autobiography as I'm ever going to write.
Yeah.
Did that, got thousands of emails from people asking me whatever happened to the family. So then I did the Home Sweet Outer Banks Home, The Story Continues, Blackbeard's Outer Banks Treasure. And then once I got there, I did a couple of writing classes down here on the Outer Banks, free writing classes. And as a result of that, I came up with this little how-to book called A Novel Idea, Fiction Writing Made Easy.
Nice.
And it's not a big, complicated book. As a matter of fact, it's it's just a simple little guide on how it worked for me. Maybe it can work for you as well. So it was not anything that I ever planned on doing as a thing, right? I did Hurricane Izzy, and then I went to the writing workshop that the Dare Arts puts on as part of the Veterans Writing Workshop every year in November. I met a guy by the name of Joseph L.S. Terrell, and Joseph had written quite a few books, and as a matter of fact, I think he had 7 or 8 at the time. And I thought to myself, man, 7 or 8 books, it's impossible to do, yeah. And then he just kind of took me under his wing, and I owe the world to Joseph Terrell in terms of writing. And
I'm sorry, did you say he was a local guy?
He is. He passed away, I think it was 2 years ago this month, maybe.
Right.
But he's got a whole series of mystery books based on the Outer Banks. Harrison Weaver is the character.
He's got a ton of books. Right?
Mary Ellen Williams, I forget the name of the second heroine in the second series. But he took me under his wing, and I owe everything to Joseph Terrell, just as I owe everything to John for radio. So.
Right. And as an author, are you always looking for the next idea? Do you have things in the hopper?
See, that's the unfortunate thing, is that I have, these books that I've written, I've done them one at a time. And now I have actually 6 books in the work, all at the same time. And that has just kind of brought me to a complete stop.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to sit down, because I haven't put out a book in 2 years now, and I'm tired of people asking me when the next book is coming out. So I'm just going to have to come to a complete stop on 6 of them and finish one, and then go to the next and the next and the next. So, yeah.
Funny.
It was too much to try to do.
So stand-up comedy, and this is kind of a personal favorite for me. I love stand-up comedy, so I'm kind of interested in what you have to say. How did you get into stand-up comedy?
By accident, just like everything else I've done in my life, I guess. I was doing, again, listening to the Bob Newhart records.
Yeah.
And I used to love I think it was in the late 70s, maybe early 80s, A&E's Evening at the Improv. Well, the guy that was the talent coordinator for A&E's Evening at the Improv and the manager of the Improv in both New York and Los Angeles, his name is Dave Schwensen. Dave was originally from the Cleveland area. His dad became sick, so he moved back to Cleveland to take care of his dad and started doing stand-up workshops at the Cleveland Improv. And so I was doing like the comedy bits in my radio shows, and I thought, well, it's a fun 3 Saturdays. Let's just go do it.
Sure.
And so I did it, and like again, it just bit me, and it's just like how I do it constantly.
Right.
So, yeah.
You do it constantly. So are you always working on new bits?
I am, yeah. Because I'm so spread out doing other things, I don't get to spend as much time doing any one thing anymore like I used to. But me and my business partner, Amy Hill, who you might know from Bus 252, and now she's got the OBX Buzz.
I coach your son in lacrosse.
Oh, good. Oh, okay.
Cooper.
Sorry. Yeah. He's like, what is he, 16 and is about 7'5".
He's a big, strong kid.
Yeah.
He can move.
Yeah. So she's my business partner in the Outer Banks, or the Laughing Seagull Comedy Club. We've had a comedy club here in the Outer Banks now for a couple of years.
And then how did you organize that?
Well, when I was in Ohio, I partnered up with another friend of mine, Eric Thompson, and we had the Warren Comedy Club. We had 2 different locations of the Warren Comedy Club. So I just kind of brought that down to the Outer Banks, teamed up with Amy. Yeah. And we do a lot of pop-up shows.
Right.
We did have an actual location at the Sandtrap Tavern last year. Year before that, we were at Theater of Dare. And then we also did some pop-up shows at other places, New Vines in Manteo. And we brought 2 stand-up comedy shows to the Pioneer Theater in Manteo. 105 years that place has been in existence, the Pioneer Theater. And we did the very first stand-up comedy show there.
Nice.
And it was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I haven't been inside, but it looks like they're doing a great job of promoting all kinds of entertainment.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
Great. And yeah, so there's not necessarily a comedy club, physical
not
structure,
a physical building, right?
On this beach, but you kind of have the nomadic comedy club moving around town.
Mm-hmm.
And are you still doing some bits, or are you just
organizer? I perform at the club. Sometimes it's just the MC. Sometimes I'll be the featured act. I still do clubs around the country. As a matter of fact, in March I'll be at Kazi's Comedy Club in Newport News for a weekend, and and I got a.
Have you done a lot of that traveling stuff?
I had.
Okay.
Not so much once I moved. I knew that once I moved to the Outer Banks, that was going to pretty much come to an end.
Okay.
Because it's just too difficult to travel from here to other places.
Right.
But when I was in Cleveland, it's real easy to get to
just about
anywhere. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. And was that a hard lifestyle? Was it a fun lifestyle?
Both. I mean, it was, when you're on stage, there's just nothing like it. It's just, it's just an amazing experience, both good and bad. There's nothing worse than being 2 minutes into a 30-minute set, knowing that the people just hate you.
Yeah.
Just hate you.
Right.
But then again, if they're on your side, it's like incredible,
Right.
So the on the stage part it's just amazing. I love it. But it's just getting to and from that I didn't care for.
Just the...
Matter of fact, you're talking about Buffalo. We did a show in Owensburg or something like that, New York. You can see Canada from where it's at.
Okay.
And we left Cleveland at 9 a.m. We got just to about Buffalo. They closed the New York Thruway.
Oh, geez.
So we had to take all these secondary roads to Syracuse and then shoot up.
Okay.
And it was almost the only time I ever missed a gig. But yeah, so that part of it's not fun.
Yeah, one of my favorite jobs...
Ogdensburg, that's what it was.
What was it called?
Ogdensburg. Yeah.
Sounds like it might be near Watertown. Watertown, I think it's just north of Syracuse and right by the Canadian border. But one of my favorite jobs that I had was I was a bartender at a hotel in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Okay.
And every Thursday night was comedy night.
Oh, wow.
And they brought in, I think, 2 comedians.
Okay.
And I just get to sit there, make some drinks, and listen to comedy all night long, which was great.
Yeah.
Here's
the thing about comedy, though. Here's the thing that I don't get it, but it's like people will say, "Oh, we went to a comedy show last week. Who'd you see?" I don't remember his name, but he does this joke about,
Right.
and that's the way it is with everybody I talk to. It's like, who was I don't know, but
Right.
yeah. But
Right.
when you go to see a concert, who was it? Oh yeah, I saw, whoever. Yeah.
Right. You'd have to have quite a following to have that name recognition.
But even still, it was crazy. Like Nate Bargatze's one of the biggest acts out there right now.
He's hot.
You mention the name, people don't know who he is. Yeah.
Right. So you got the show going, and are you doing all the recruiting for these comedians coming into town?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Do you know some of them, or do you just?
I know most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I know most of them.
And that's from being in the business.
Right. Yeah. It's like I have my own personal Rolodex for that kind of thing. Right. Amy took care of like the business side of it, the tickets, the promotions, the marketing. It was my job in the comedy club to book the comedians and make sure that they had a place to stay and got whatever they needed taken care of.
Cool. And are your comedy shows in demand? Like, are places all up and down the beach like asking you to have a comedy show at their place?
It depends on the season, right? I mean, we don't do the comedy shows necessarily in the off season. We do it more in season, so a lot of places are a little bit more restrictive in what they can allow to they're already busy. They don't need me to bring in people for a comedy show because they're already busy. So that's why we did Sandtrap Tavern last year, but we also did the Theater of Dare last year.
Where's the Theater of Dare?
It's right here at Kitty Hawk Light. Used to be called Paparazzi's, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it's right in the corner there. It's
across from the post office. More
yeah, exactly. Right. So, they didn't have in the summer quite the demand for their space, so that's why we did it there.
Okay.
But the problem is it's so cavernous. It's
is that right?
It's a lot
hard to fill up.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so, if we wanted to catch the next show or a show,
Mm-hmm.
how would we find that?
Facebook mostly. We have a Facebook page, Laughing Seagull Comedy Club. We don't have anything scheduled just yet, but we're looking at. I think in March will be the next show, only because of the fact that. I mentioned I'll be at Kazi's Comedy Club in March. The headlining comedian at Kazi's is Bill Barranque. He used to be a sportscaster in Channel 5 in Cleveland. He's been all over the country. Right now, he's in Hawaii performing as we speak.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, he called me this morning to let me know it's 80 degrees.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, bastard. But so he's going to be there Friday, Saturday, so we'll probably bring him to the Outer Banks Thursday. So we'll give him an extra day on his run so he can do Thursday and Friday, Saturday up there.
Nice.
So I think it's March 5th, maybe. I think that's the date, whatever that Thursday is.
Nice. Right around spring break for some people, maybe.
Yeah.
Good to know. Let's see. Let's bump down to trivia host.
Oh, okay.
And this is something that's actively ongoing, right?
Yeah. 6 nights a week,
Wow.
and on some days multiple locations.
You have a team of trivia MCs?
I do, yeah. It used to be just me, and now I've got Amy Hill, my partner in the comedy club. She's one of the hosts. And we just recently picked up off the waiver wire Jody O'Donnell from Beach 104.
I've seen him chiming in on Facebook, helping promote the shows around town. They're very cool.
So the three of us are covering, I think it's maybe 13 or 14 different places across the Outer Banks.
Nice.
Every week, yeah.
And who is coming up with the trivia? Who sits
Me.
down and you're the trivia guy?
Yeah, I'm the trivia guy. So I come up with all the questions, and then I forward it to Amy and Jody, so they have it at night.
How many questions a night? Or
it's
for
20,
Jody?
It's 20 questions per game.
Okay.
Let me just say this: if anyone's playing with Jody or Amy and you disagree with an answer, don't bitch to them, bitch to me.
Here's the complaint department.
Yeah,
here.
right.
Okay. And how do you come up with these? Are you on Google or are you just?
I get them from everywhere.
It's kind of
everywhere. Yeah, it's like when somebody tells me, because I get a lot of people, in addition to, I got a joke for you. It's like, I got a question for you, and I'll jot it down and I'll look it up, make sure it is right, and then I get a lot that way. People are always giving me trivia questions, or if I'm just watching TV or something, I can ask this question. Or, if I do a lot of reading, so if I'm reading something, I can pick up a question out of that. So It's everywhere. Yeah. And then I've got some trivia books that I've written that are past games, and I'll go back into those and use those too.
Is that right? Excellent. And if we want to find the next trivia night, how would we find the next trivia night?
Facebook, Greg Smrdel's Outer Banks Trivia. That's a Facebook group that I've started, and we post the week's schedule there. Usually every Sunday night, I'll post the next week's schedule. And then what I like to do is have fun too, and it's like I'll also post the most ridiculous answer of the night, stuff like
Just
that.
to humiliate that one person.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's usually, is there a prize for the winning?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, let's back up.
Yeah.
How is trivia night set up? How does it work? And
Okay, well,
take me through that.
Yeah, so the games are free. Everywhere we do it, the games are free. And the prizes vary from place to place to place, but most of them will have a first, second, and third place prize. So it's not a game where it's on the TV screens, because I purposely have designed it to where we can go to the tables and interact with the tables.
Right.
I use my trivia nights basically as an open mic to test out some of my material before I actually take it to the stage.
Gotcha.
So we try to make it as interactive as possible.
Right.
We're constantly mocking teams. I know that sounds horrible, but the thing that people seem to like the most is when you mock them.
Right.
So we do a lot of that, but it's in a friendly, good-natured way,
Sure.
and everybody's part of the show. And sometimes the audience will turn on me, and
Right.
But it's great. It's just a lot of fun.
It's like that. Who's hosting Family Feud right now?
I'm not sure. Is it Steve Harvey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he gives you that look
From
like
Cleveland, by the way.
Is that right?
Yeah.
He gives you that look like, that's the stupidest answer I've
Yeah.
ever heard.
Yeah.
And you just laugh.
Yeah, and I'll let them know sometimes. Hey, this makes it to the dumb answer of the week.
We have a nominee.
Yeah.
Excellent. So they have prizes.
Mm-hmm.
How, are the teams like just by table? Doesn't really matter how
It's
big the
whoever
table
signs
is?
up. Yeah, whoever signs up. You can have a team as few as one. You can have a team as many as 10. So a lot of these teams will come week after week after week to the same location.
Yeah.
I've got one guy, Brian Smith. I love this guy. He's 89 years old, lives in Point Harbor. He plays Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. He follows me from place to place to place. And I've got other teams that follow me from place to place too, which, I got to make sure the questions are different each time they show up.
Pressure's on.
Yeah. But so it's just a group of friends. We have a team at New Vines in Manteo, which we just did last night, which is Thursday night. Their team is I don't know, and it's just people that all live on the same street in the same neighborhood.
Cool.
And this is their once a week get together.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and then my mother plays with her friends at New Vines in Manteo.
Does she usually heckle you?
Man, I'll tell you what, there is nothing worse than getting heckled by an 82-year-old woman.
Mom?
Yeah.
Don't make me send you home.
That's right.
That's great. And what kind of prizes do you hand out?
It's money off their bill, typically.
Okay. Free drinks or free pizza, whatever.
Yeah, well, it's $20 off your final tab or whatever it is, and it's like before we start the game, we got trivia starting here in about 15 minutes. If you want to potentially win some money off your bill, sign up. If you want to sit here and watch and pay full price, that's fine too. So
And how long does the contest usually last?
It depends on how many teams and how big the teams and how easy or difficult the game is, but typically it's about an hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you going from table to table, or is it first person raises their hand?
No, they write down their answers.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a written kind of a test, and I go pick up those answers
Do
after
you make them
every
hide their
question.
phones?
Yes. and again, most of the people that play with me have been with me for so long, I don't even have to worry about people cheating. And trust me, the teams will let me know if there's another team looking at the phone. Trust me on that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. So I've actually read about this as a side hustle, and I guess the big selling point, if you were to create a business like this, and I don't want to show people what's behind the curtain, but you go up to a restaurant and say, I can make people stick around longer, eat more food, drink more drinks, and I'll just entertain, and I'll just you just pay me whatever or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
Is that kind of working out true for you?
For the most part, yeah. I did it as a flat fee for the first couple of years, and now it's kind of a sliding scale depending on how many teams are playing.
Right.
Because the more teams playing, the more
The tabs. And...
yeah, the slips and all the materials, pencils.
Oh, right.
There's more of a cost in that. So, the bar's making more money, so it's only fair that I bring in a little bit extra too. So we do have a sliding scale depending on the number of teams. But for the most part, we have a question built in that question by itself will pay me for the night.
How's that?
We're not going to look behind the curtain. We're just trust me. Because you talked about a side hustle, and don't make me have my employee Guido come out and start cracking some kneecaps.
That's right. All right. I'll shut up.
No. It's we do things that we give away bonus points at halftime.
Okay.
So each team member that either buys a shot, a beer, a glass of wine, a mixed drink, or a dessert, for those that don't drink, they get 3 extra bonus points per team.
Okay.
So we had a team once at New Vines. And at New Vines, we do 7 bonus points for a bottle of wine purchased. I had a team that bought it was 6 or 7 cases of wine during that time. And they had these ungodly number of bonus points. Right. And people will say to me, well, that's not fair. They got 10 people, we got 2, they can buy more at half. Trust me, the people that spend the most at halftime are not usually the winners. and the team that bought those cases of wine finished in last.
No.
Yeah, they bet it all at the end.
Because they were drunk.
It always comes up to that final question. Always.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Nice. It sounds like fun, and I'm going to have to get out there and enjoy it. I enjoy some trivia. I'm not sure I'm any good at it, but I can.
Can I name the places where we're at?
Oh, please do. Tell us all about it.
Yeah,
then, first of all, can you say your favorite place without making all the
they're all my favorite place in one way or another.
Sure.
Okay. Mondays we're at Shipwrecks in Kitty Hawk. Tuesdays I'm at the Sand Trap Tavern at the Seascape Golf Course in Kitty Hawk. Amy is at Collington Pizza, and Jody is at BJ's in Currituck.
Right.
Wednesday I am at Mulligan's at 6, Noosa Beach Grill at 7:30. Amy is at Buffalo City Distillery at 6. Thursday, Amy's at Captain George's at 6 o'clock. 6:30, I'm at New Vines. Fridays is Tap That OBX, which is on the Beach Road next to Arts Place. That gets underway at 6:30. Jody O'Donnell is kind of handling that one right now for me. And then starting up the end of the month, we are back at Wild Goose Wine Bar in Corolla. That's Saturdays at 6 o'clock.
Excellent.
So that's the trivia schedule.
And if you couldn't remember all that, it's on the Facebook page, Greg Smrdel's Outer Banks Trivia.
Correct.
Excellent. Can I ask you which venue is the largest or draws the biggest crowd?
Noosa typically is the biggest crowd.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for me to have like 15 teams out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I say I've been to Noosa twice. Mm-hmm. It's such a cool building. It's really old. It's kind of cavernous. I mean, it's got a high ceiling, and they just do a cool job there with the wines and some charcuterie boards and stuff like that.
Rob and Susie, who own the place, they're just great people.
Is that right?
Yeah, Rob's from Australia, Susie's from Cleveland, so that's our Cleveland keeps coming up.
Can't get rid of them.
Yeah, I know.
And I think they have a couple mascot cats that are cruising around in the joint there, which is kind of cool.
Ah, okay.
No, you haven't seen them?
I have not seen them.
Maybe they scatter with the big crowds come out. But yeah, they got some enormous cats that cruise around there. So let's working down the list here of your long vita is Manteo Walking Tour. Tell me about the Manteo Walking Tour.
So the Manteo Walking Tour was actually created by my buddy Corey Hemmelwright, who owns the Bluegrass Island Trading Company and does the Bluegrass Festival every year.
Right.
So I worked with him for 1 or 2 years, and then last year I just ended up buying the company from him. So now I own the Manteo Walking Tour. We do it basically 6 days a week. We've been doing it at 6 o'clock at night. But here's what I'm finding out. There's another guy who used to work for us that doesn't anymore, started his own tour. There's the ghost tours down there. We just kept tripping all over each other every single night. So this year I'm doing it a little bit different. I'm actually going to do my walking tours at 10 o'clock in the morning. So that way, if it's a cloudy day, if you had too much sun, you don't want, if there's no swimming flags flying, you want something to do during the day, 10 o'clock in the morning, you can take a nice little walking tour. We cover Downtown Manteo. We talk about some of the history there. We certainly talk about the Lost Colony. But we also talk about all the other towns, Kitty Hawk and Kill Devil Hills and Nag's Head. And it's fun. It's interactive, like I say. And again, my background is comedy, so I make it as funny as I can as well.
Very history-based?
It is history-based, yeah, but not in a dry, dusty, you're in a classroom kind of history lecture. I'm not talking at you. I'm talking with you and answering questions. And again, making it as lighthearted and as funny as I possibly can. And people seem to enjoy it. So
nice.
Yeah.
How long does that tour take?
Again, it depends on how many questions are asked. But again, it's typically about an hour and a half or so.
Right.
So if we do it at 10 in the morning, you're done somewhere between 11:30 and noon. Great time to stop and have some lunch in downtown Manteo. Yeah.
And are you covering a lot of ground, or is everything pretty?
It's about a half mile.
Okay.
It's about a half mile in total. And I know we have some elderly people that are a little daunted by the distance, but there are places to sit at along the way. So, for an example, when we get to the front of what is now Dare Arts, it used to be the courthouse. There's benches there, and say, okay, we're going to be here for a few minutes. Feel free to have a seat if you'd like. When we get over to Creef Park, same thing. We're going to talk about the lighthouse, the weather tower, the Freedmen's Colony. We're going to talk about the Elizabeth II sailing ship that was built here. We're going to talk about all of those things. So we'll be here for a while. So you can either sit in the rocking chairs here, and we'll do it there. Sit on picnic tables here, we'll do it there. And then when we get to the waterfront, there's places in the gazebo too they can sit. So it's a half mile, but it's not a daunting half mile. It is, places to sit and rest along the way. Yeah.
We went to Beaufort, North Carolina, and I signed
Beaufort.
up for a ghost tour.
Yeah.
And my kids will never let me forget this, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And the guy dressed up in period costume, which
yeah.
made it kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But the one thing I'll say is it was probably half an hour too long, and we walked so far.
Yeah.
So I was like, really? Do we really have to walk this far?
Well, that's the thing. You have to read the crowd, right?
Yeah.
You have to know, okay, they're hot, they're hungry, whatever. We're just not going to talk about this today.
Right.
We'll just not talk about this to shorten it up a little bit. You have to kind of read the crowd.
Yeah, understood. Even in the rental business, I had to read the crowd. And so, how many is that year round? The tours?
No, basically, I'll start back up again March or April, depending on the weather, and then we usually finish Thanksgiving weekend.
Gotcha.
So right now, I'm developing the flyers for it, which will be ready by the end of this month. We'll start.
Will this be your first season owning it?
Second
season owning it.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And how, you probably have a crew, or is this? It's not you, is it?
It is.
Wow.
Yeah, I did have somebody else last year because I had so many other things going on at night, trivia and comedy and whatnot. And that's also part of the reason why I moved it to the morning. So, I can do the morning.
Yeah.
My schedule's flexible, and I do a lot of stuff. And it sounds like it's more than it really is because I've got it pretty much organized into.
You've surrounded yourself with some team members that.
Yeah. So my schedule is flexible enough to let me, if I have to stop doing this right now to do a tour, I can do that. That kind of thing. So.
Does I'm sorry, I'm backing up, but the streaming radio station, is that just a matter of how many minutes a day are you spending on that? Are you just cut and paste everything and then just send it off to the internet?
It depends. I'm on the air 7 to 11 in the mornings and then 4 to 6 in the evenings. And then the other programs, like we're talking about John and whatnot, John will provide me a playlist for his show, usually by Wednesday. His show's on Saturdays. He'll provide me a playlist by Wednesday. So I'll assemble the playlist. And then usually Friday afternoon, he'll send me the voice tracks, and I got to paste those in between the appropriate songs. Okay. So the radio station literally is a 7-day-a-week job.
Right.
I'm working 7 days a week. Saturdays and Sundays, maybe only 2 hours, but nonetheless, it's 2 hours I got to spend on it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I didn't know it'd be that involved, but I guess
I didn't either when I started.
What was I thinking? Okay. Any projects? Anything else you got going on? Any other projects you want to promote or talk about?
Nothing right now. We're just going to be, we're going to be fine tuning what we're doing now. We certainly will be adding more trivia as we go along.
Really?
Now that I have that second person in Jody O'Donnell, I can start not turning people down. I've had to turn people down because I simply just wasn't able to,
right.
accommodate it. So we'll add more trivia.
Do you think that's something that's going to still carry into the summer strongly?
No. We'll still do trivia in the summer, although a lot of them will fall off because they're busy enough in the summer.
They'll be too busy.
Yeah. So we only do, which is kind of nice because, the summer is most people's busy season. The off season is my busy season.
Yeah.
And then when my tours are busier in the summer, I don't have to worry about as much trivia.
Right.
So it kind of all dovetails together.
Nice.
Some things that I do are busier at other times of the year than other things. So it works nicely.
Right. And at the same time, I don't know, you're probably, whenever you have some downtime, you're planning for the next thing.
Downtime?
You're preparing for the next
That's
thing.
downtime.
Right.
It's like, right now some things are suffering. I got to get that next book out. And, I'm a big resolution goal kind of a guy. So I gave myself to Memorial Day to get the next book out. So I'm putting it out there in the universe now.
All right.
Memorial Day, look for the next book.
You heard it here first.
And it's right now tentatively entitled Murder on the Outer Banks. So that's the working title. Murder in Kill Devil Hills, actually, is the working title.
All right.
So I'm hopefully get that out.
Another fiction?
Another fiction based on the unsolved murder of Denise Johnston up here in Kill Devil Hills.
And her name slips my brain, but the lady who has the podcast that started with that whole thing.
D'Ambria, right.
D'Ambria, thank you.
Right.
Interviewed her, and she was fantastic.
Yeah.
And what she's doing with podcasting is amazing, and really excited to see that. So I'm a little familiar because I've heard a lot of her episodes on that.
Yeah.
So you're working on that, and you're just kind of organizing things. All right.
We're going to be adding some more things to the radio station. Give it a little bit extra flavoring. I've got this reggae band called Flip Flop Republic that is hosting the Indie Hour, and they are, which is brought to you, by the way, by the Miss Oregon Inlet Head Boat too. So they feature a lot of their reggae friends bands, and we do that Saturdays at 6 p.m. Sunday mornings.
Are they
at
local?
8. No, they're one guy's in Nashville, and the other 3 I think are in Florida.
Okay.
But they perform as a band around the country. And we're here on the Outer Banks back on July 3rd, as a matter of fact.
Thought that name sounded familiar.
Yeah. So
we're at the festival park this summer?
No, they were actually up in Duck.
Okay.
The Roadside Grill in Duck is where they were.
Okay, gotcha.
And so we're going to be adding some more things like that. We've got some of our Coastal Americana artists that might be doing an hour show once a week, featuring maybe some of the Coastal Americana music that I don't get to hear as often, and we can put it on the air and
nice
and things like that. So
nice. Did we leave out any websites or Facebook pages?
ManteoWalkingTour.com. That's where you can book
your
tours for this upcoming season. It is $25 a person. Kids 14 and under are free. ManteoWalkingTour.com is that. Trivia, Greg Smrdel's Outer Banks Trivia on Facebook, Laughing Seagull Comedy Club on Facebook. And, my books are at all of the local bookstores. Nice. Downtown Books in Manteo, Island Bookstores carries them all. Buxton Village Books, Collington Creek Inn has them, as does the Cotton Gin.
And as I'd like to mention, because you're not the first author I've had on the show, I always like to mention that if you are not local and you cannot go to one of these stores, call them up, and often they will ship them to you. I know many of Downtown Books will ship books to you.
Right.
So, and I would much rather support the local stores than Amazon.
Well, I don't know. Come on, Jeff Bezos needs the money, man. I mean, he's now projected not to be a trillionaire. It used to be 2026, now it's 2027.
Poor guy.
I know.
So support the local bookstores. I can't recommend this enough. I love the entertainment. I love the ability for people, both locals and visitors, to get out there on the town and check you out with the trivia. with the walking tours, all that good stuff, in the comedy shops, I think it's a great opportunity. So, and you're all over the place. You're not at just one place. You're not at one end of the beach or the other. You're all over the place. So plenty of opportunities for everybody to be entertained.
Yeah.
So.
Well, John, I appreciate you having me on here. I really do.
Hey.
It's hard to stand out from the clutter, man. And
I'll do my best.
I'm so appreciative of the fact that you asked me to come on.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming out today.
Yeah.
Big thanks to Greg Smrdel for sitting down with me. I tell you what, he's got something for everybody. And I think I've run out of excuses for not having anything to do at night. Be sure to see what he has going on before you make plans to go out. Don't forget, be sure to check out my website, treasuresoftheouterbanks.com, and sign up for weekly emails so we can stay in touch. I promise I won't be annoying. Also, while you're on the website, be sure to check out the merchandise page because I have some new t-shirt designs I think are pretty cool. Just click on an image and drill down to the full catalog. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode, and until that time, make it a good one.